Well, this is Straight Talk with George to the Great Fan, the preacher, man. And I have Rita with me. Rita Scott, she is a retiree, representative retired for CWA. Walter told me to make sure I do Rita first, so I'm going to do what Walter said. So Rita is the president of the retirees for CWA, right? The union.
And would you add CWA Local 3204?
All right. See, they telling me what to do. 3204. See, I
Right.
do
So,
I do what these people tell me to do. Now, Walt. Now, Walter Andrews, I've known Walt for years, all the way from high school and everything like that. And his wife is my classmate and a good friend of mine. And Walter D. Andrews is he's some kind of guy. He's a very special kind of guy. Really love God and really love God's people. Really looking out for the least, the lost, the left out. And it's my pleasure to introduce him to you today, Walter D. Andrew, the president emeritus of CWA. And I can't get that local, but you can get your own local, Walt.
Will do. You
All
ready
right.
for me?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
ready
yes.
for you. Yeah.
Okay, Walter D. Andrews, President Emeritus of CWA Local 3204 here in Atlanta, Georgia. President, CWA National Minority Caucus. And just on the sideline, we got the first African American elected as president of the second largest telecommunication union in the United States of America. It was through our efforts of coming together and do what we need to do for our people to have our voices heard, and we have been very successful. I'm a deacon at Zion Grove Baptist Church. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a granddaddy, and I'm happy to be here with you today, Greg.
And you all of that. You much
Well,
more. You're a retired veteran too. You have armed services.
I'm sorry, I left it out.
That's all right, but I got what you missed up, what you missed, I grab it, you know. But
Okay.
what I want to talk about, is we want to talk politics today. The union has always been
oh,
instrumental.
I don't know, Craig. After that introduction, I've got to at least let people know that I am evangelist as well. I've got to say that. I'm
Don't
sorry,
we?
but I learned from Walter D. Andrews that if you're going to talk about who you are, you may as well talk about the whole thing. I'm a mother of three sons, mother-in-law of three, and four grandchildren. Excited about that.
But let me introduce myself then.
You
I'm
got the
Greg Fan
wrong, you got the wrong crew here, dog.
I'm Greg Fan the preacher, man. Listen, guys, listen. I love these guys. We work very well together. We have over the years in organized labor. Uh, on this before we get into other discussion. I was listening at the View with Whippet, and they had Vance on trying to sell his book, right? And he's from some little small town and what have you, and he was talking about his father was a union man. I said, it's a shame how the parents have taken union jobs to help educate their kids and get them into these positions and these careers, and they down organized labor. It's just a shame. I don't understand that. You and Rita, we've been at this a long time, and people come to us and say they want us to endorse them and support them, but they say their daddy was this or their mama was this or part of this union and that union, but they ain't in nobody's union and don't even believe in organized labor. So let's talk a little bit about organized labor and politics and how you got into this in the first place. And well, I'm gonna start with Rita first, since you said ladies go first, and we'll let Rita talk about how she
Thank
got
you.
involved in organized labor, and then we'll talk to you about your getting involved in organized labor.
Thank you.
Well, I actually learned about organized labor from my mother. My mother, who was a domestic worker but owned her own cleaning business in Miami, Florida, worked in an area where there were other union organized workers, but her being a business owner and the fact that I went to work to help her a lot of times could understand the benefits of those in the building that were part of organized labor. Now, myself, I became a member of organized labor as an employee of what was then Bell South. And in fact, Walter D. Andrews, that is here, was at the time executive vice president of CWA Local 3204. And I became a member of organized labor and had never had to actually reach out to the services of organized labor until I was just about to lose my job. And that was prior to the Family Medical Leave Act, which organized labor helped to pass, because I raised two sons that had asthma. I'm the mother of three, but two were severely asthmatic. And no matter what, when I was ill, I went to work. But when they were ill, I had to take them to the doctor, the hospital, or whatever necessary to ease their asthma attacks. And so I got a call one night saying, guess what? You're going to be fired tomorrow because your attendance is so bad. And I called my union, Local 3204, and left a message because I didn't want to be late to work, and went on my way to work. And in the middle of on my way to work, I began to talk to the Lord. And when I got to my building, there was a gentleman walking the parking lot asking each woman as she got out of the car what their name was, because he was there to represent Rita Scott. And in doing that, when he came to represent me in the meeting where I was to be terminated, he went through my records and determined that, guess what? Some of these notes and these entries are incorrect, and this young lady should not be terminated. And that's when I decided that I needed to become involved in my union, because my union had saved my job, saved me from being terminated, and it allowed me the opportunity to have the desire to help others that found themselves in the same position. And that is how I first became involved to the extent of where I am with organized labor.
All right, Walter D.
Well, Greg, I'm from Fair Street Bottom, Booker T. Washington High, class 6-7. Didn't really know anything or nothing about unions, okay? But then before I finished high school, I had got Rita pregnant, lost my job, tore up a car. I said, Lord, help me get me out of here. And I went in the United States Air Force, okay? I was gone, and my baby sister, Pinky, Lucille Andrews, she took a poll card around for me and got all the grades signed off, and I was able to get my high school diploma. Went into the military, didn't even know I was black, didn't know anything about unions or anything like that. So I went into the military, and everything that happened, it only happened to the black recruits. The white boys did whatever, our white brothers did whatever they wanted to do, okay? And so I went through the military for about 7 years, and that's when I really, really started to understand discrimination. I still knew nothing about unions. Okay, I did my time in the military. I got out, and I came home, and back to Fair Street and everything. I stopped and picked somebody up and help a brother out and all that. And my sister then would say, "You're gonna get killed. You don't pick these people up. They're on them drugs." I said, "I don't care." So I went through a period of real depression because I was not in charge of my family. I was living with my mother-in-law. I couldn't even chastise my own children. I never will forget that, because she would never say a word, but the way she looked at me, Miss Sue looked at me, I knew it wasn't right. Finally, I said, okay, I got to do something. So I went to school under the GI Bill, and I got paid for going to school. I went to Bell and Howell, which at the time was the company that was making all the equipment for Southern Bell. And I went to Bell and Howell, and I met some guys that someone was over my house yesterday. I met some guys that we formed a lifelong partnership with, and most of us was out of the military. And we understood the military code of justice was you're guilty until we prove you guilty. If they won your case, then that also lost his career. But that's what that was. So I went to work. I went to the Bell and Howell. Later, when we finished Bell and Howell in 1978, it turned into the Rye Institute of Technology. We were the first class that came out. So we came out, and I went over to, my sister was the operator out of high school, and she had about 7, 8 years then, because they was taking kids out of high school to work at the telephone company as operators. And so they told me to go apply for that. So I'm out of the military, didn't know nothing about unions or anything, and I went and applied for Southern Bell, which was down there on Ivy Street at the time. So I applied, and I passed it. And Judge Green at the time had passed Judge Green had made a ruling that Southern Bell was discriminating against people of color because they had no people of color in the top craft job with Southern Bell. At that time, the top craft job at Southern Bell was called a wage scale 55 toll testing technician. And at that time, you had to understand that the only way you could get in with Southern Bell was you was a janitor, a chauffeur, a maid. Some of them was coming up through the ranks as frame attendants and stuff like that. But I was hired off the street, and the wage scale 55, the highest craft in the telephone company. Me and a guy, Howard Stansberry, went to Howard's home going a few months ago. But anyway, we came in, didn't know anything about unions, okay? Didn't know anything about unions. So we got there in the front door. AT&T was on the strike. Back in those days, if they suspended anybody or did anything to you, AT&T would hit the concrete. So we walked up, me and Howard met at the front door, and we walked up, and I never will forget it. We didn't know whether to go blind. So it was a young lady there. Her name was Betty Jean Dixon, and she was out there on the picket line as a representative from CWA. She was with Southern Bell, but when the unions did something, the stewards would go out and support them. And so we saw some folks, and we said, what do we do? We don't know. They said, go over there and talk to Betty. Betty tell you what to do. Betty said, okay. And we walked over and talked to Betty. Betty said, y'all gone in there, Will. Don't worry about it. We'll forgive you. This is just an informational picket line against AT&T. Had no god idea what an informational picket line was. We went on in. They took me and Howard in. They took us downstairs and hit us on the mezzanine. I didn't know what a mezzanine was. A mezzanine is a floor between floors, okay? So they hit us down there in mezzanine because the people on the upper floors that worked at everything that they wanted those jobs, which they were not given the opportunity to get them, but the judge had made them hire us, okay? So they hit us down there. Went on for a while. Then I said, I'm tired of this crap. I want to go up on the floor and do the work. What you hired me for, man? What you got me? I'm not here filing these papers. That ain't what They said, okay, we'll send you on up there. They sent me upstairs, and when I walked in the door, there was a woman named Norma Powers. She said, come here. And she sit me down at the table and she throwed out a union card and said, sign this. I said, what is that? She said, it's a union card. You joined the union. I didn't know no different. I signed it and joined the union and went from there. Okay, that was my first involvement with the union. I didn't know it. Nora signed me up and I didn't know anything. So went on. So everybody hated me. The employees, the black ones that wanted the job that was denied because they've been trying to work their way up and get up there. But it was a few had made it. James Starr, Annie McCrimmon, and so many others. Low Latimer, a lot of them ceased and gone on. So went on. So we got in there. So they took me under their arms and they protected me and helped me. I was assigned to a crew of about 4 of our white brothers and sisters. And so we was just, that they were supposed to have been teaching me the job. And finally, when they had it so good, when they go to lunch, they went across the street called the library, and they dropped 10, 15, 20 pictures of beer. We went over there, and we had a good time. We came back and went to sleep. We got off at 4 o'clock. By the time we woke up from drinking all that beer, it was 7 o'clock. So we went home, okay? We went home. When we come back to work the next day, they told me they needed to see me in the office. They needed to see me in the office because they had to discuss something with me. So they went down to the office to the district director, a man named Dickerson. I can't remember what his first name is right now. I went down there and they said, well, we're going to have to put this entry in your record for failure to report out. And I said, what are you talking about? They said, you left work early. I said, I didn't. All you got to do is ask my trainers because all of us was in the break room sleep. So, ask my trainers. They said, we don't get people involved in people grievance meetings. I said, okay. So I went on back up on the floor and the trainers, the guys that was training me, the white fellow was saying, that's wrong, Walt. File a grievance. I filed a grievance. And a young man named David Prather, I never will forget it as long as I live. He came over and we went in the conference room. We were sitting there and he drinking coffee and they talking about good times and all this stuff. That taught me never to drink coffee in a union meeting. So that with drinking coffee and stuff. And I'm saying, what the hell is he with? Is he with me or them? So, they went on. So Finally, I got pissed. And I said, look, 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 look. This is bull. All you got to do is ask the guys that are training me, did I leave work early? We was together. Okay. We was together. I said, you know what? Y'all can take this and you know what you can do with it. This time my wife was pregnant with my baby boy. I walked out the door and got to the elevator and almost fell. Lord, I done lost this good job. I was shook, man. I was shook. So I went upstairs. And I was fit to be tired. I was fit to be tired. And so I went upstairs and the guy and them white guys, truthfully, that was with me said, no, man, you call the union and file a grievance. And then they, like I said, they sent David over there and he drank coffee and stuff like that. So I didn't hear nothing else about that grievance meeting. So they said, you need to start going to the grievance. You need to start going to the union meeting. And my sister said, please don't go over there, Buster. They're going to kill you. Don't go over there, man. Them white folks don't play. Don't go over there. I said, we'll see. I went in there. And I went in there and they were so nasty. And, they had guns and stuff like that. Unfortunately, a lot of us, I'm a judge, agreement had came to work for Southern Bell, and AT&T was right across the street. We was almost in a mingle there. So I went back and I got them brothers, Low Latimer, Frank Friendly, Paul and John and all them, and we got our guns and we went back to the union meeting. They said, okay, whoa. No more guns in the union meeting. Okay, no problem. Started going to the union meeting. I went to the union meeting and I looked on the wall and it was nothing but white folk all the way across there. I said, I'm going to break it if it kills me. I washed dishes, I cooked, I cleaned up, I did whatever they wanted to do. They signed me to organize and I brought the numbers up, something awful. Then they signed me the grievances and I brought the load down almost nothing. I did that. And finally, Clarence Atkins, one of the biggest racists that ever came through there. I never forget Billy Powell certified me, but Clarence ran against Billy and he went up north and all up through there and telling them folks that Billy was giving the union to the niggers and Billy lost his election. That thing still hurt me today because he was looking for the dead and missing kids at that time. So I did what I did and I worked my way up. And about this time, this is where I met Rita, okay? And about this time, because we had M.M. Smith was the president, so we were going to get rid of him. They came to me, the rest of the board came to me and said, it's your time. You earned it. If you don't go, we're going with somebody else. I said, I'm going. And I went to Smith and I told him I'm going. Okay, so he resigned. He stopped and walked away. So I went up there and I met Rita Scott up there where they were working with Lucid or whatever it was, Rita. And they were wanting to get out the union and go to another union because they felt they wasn't working right. And I said, Rita, work with me, help me get elected, and I'll fix it. I'll help y'all. I get it fixed. And sure enough, her and Kenny, Big Kevin, they worked with me, and I won the election. And Rita was my political director. So I'm more active now in the political arena than I was then, because all I did was Rita make a call and it's done, as far as I'm concerned, because she's been my saving angel. And I messed around and I stayed in there 30-something years as president. And then I messed around, retired. And Rita came to me as a retiree, said, bring your butt on. So now she's my boss. I sent her to jail. She ain't sent me to jail yet. So, she's my boss. But my kids and my family and everybody know about a union now, which I didn't know. And I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I'm telling you what I earned.
Well, Walt, that's a great testimony about your experience in terms of even from your family life and all those kinds of things, and your relationship with Rita. And Rita definitely is the person that knows the political part of it. She definitely knows the political part. She has been world of knowledge. And if you want to know anything about bills and how bills are passed and what's going on up there under the Demon Dome,
Demon Dome.
the Gold Dome, I call it the Demon Dome, the evil people down there doing evil things to good people. But anyway, Rita could tell you about it. Rita, I got someone she asked for you. Just heard that they said they weren't going to vote on changing the lines. I don't know if you heard it yet. They're not going to change. Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because they're talking about, Trump wanted lines changed to get more seats, but they called a special session, and then now they're saying today on the news, it was reported on the news that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. So can you bring us up on that, Rita, to understand the connotation of the lines and why they wanted to do that?
So what specifically this is going on across various states, Georgia being one, especially in the southern states, because of the Supreme Court ruling that you cannot draw represented lines for Congress based upon what the version of the Voting Rights Act to give people of color representation. And other states, as well as Georgia, called a special session to vote on those lines. Now, personally, what I've heard about the event on today when they were called into session is that we're in such an uproar with the midterms, and that it's the current governor did not want to discuss because it would influence and affect the turnout for the midterms. So even though the session was called based upon redrawing the lines, now what that means is they look at how many people of specific race and color live in certain districts. And one of the problems we've had is not having fair or equal representation. Well, because as you see, the primary election, which led to the runoffs here in Georgia, which took place on yesterday, and the current governor, the candidates that he endorsed for the highest seats in the state. In Georgia, we have 5 constitutional seats. His endorsed candidates did not make it through the runoff. And so therefore, those that did make it through the runoff that were not endorsed by the current governor, the effect is that if this happens, if they talk about redistricting now and redraw the lines prior to the midterm elections, it's going to greatly influence more turnout in the midterms. Personally, I wanted to influence the turnout no matter what. I believe that we need to make sure that those of us that represent labor and the everyday working person, that we turn out to vote no matter what. So what they're saying is the excuse, and the reason they're saying is that we will not make sure that those that represent you in Congress look like you. In other words, if I can redraw a line and say that this particular district stops here at this corner as opposed to the other corner, and in that other corner, I have 500,000 people of color, but on this corner, I have 600,000 people of non-color, then I can draw the line here, and you won't have the vote to make sure that you represent those not only that look like you, but represent you and your thoughts, your mannerism, how you live, how you scuffle, how you've worked, and what you've done to become who you are in the United States. And that's what the purpose of redrawing the lines is to limit how many people that represent you in Congress look like you, act like you, work like you, think like you, have needs like you, but instead represent another group of people.
Well, Rita, I want to thank you for that, for sharing it.
Let me interrupt that.
Sure.
And then she spoke about that. Just to give you an example, I'm here in DeKalb County where over 57% of people of color make up the voting strength that we have in this county. And that's what they're trying to do, redistrict that to take our voting strength away.
Yeah, and I was going to just say that because the 3 major counties in terms of DeKalb, Fulton, and Cobb, right? Let's just call it, which we have those black representatives. Because what's the name? Stanford Bishop is down in South Georgia, down there, so he's different. But the cluster of black voters or registered voters is those 3 counties. Let's just and parts of Gwinnett County and Henry County. So it's kind of difficult for them to look at how they would split those votes and still come up with what they want to come up by eliminating. So only somebody they probably possibly could eliminate would have been Sanford Bishop anyway. So I mean, when you look at how Georgia comprises with black voters, and we're talking about black voters and others, because not just black voters but others. And we're not talking about just Democratic voters, we're talking about black and other voters, right? It's difficult to do that and come out with the kind of comment out they want to come out. They probably should have stayed back in the dealing like they were dealing with it originally in terms of the gerrymandering based on party. Based on part of what they were doing. But now when you move to race, now you got another problem because you created your own problem. Because you in Georgia, black folks and others are everywhere, and so you're not going to win with that. And one reason I want to say this because, and to you and Walt, I am not concerned so much about what they did in the 5 counties and then taking away whether you're a Democrat or whether you're a Republican. I know people are concerned about that.
Are you talking about as the DA, the race of the DA?
Right. I'm talking about the DA's race or any race because they're talking about taking away from the whether you're running Democrat or whatever in those races, not just the DA's office, but all those constitutional offices. So you don't say you're declaring to be a Democrat or a Republican. I don't see that as much of a problem as some people do because now you got to be true to who you are in terms of how you vote. Because I'm not a Democrat person. I'm not a Republican person. I vote for the individual based on their belief. We got people come to us and say they support labor and they got a Democratic banner, but when we go to them to ask them about labor issues, they can't support it. They can't support it. They so we got to start looking at people and electing people based on what they truly hard at. What have they proven to us that they support labor? What have you done? What have you done to look out for the least, the lost, and the left out, right? What have you done? Not the title, because we know from history how Zigzag Zale has changed party. How the Purdue changed parties. I mean, how even the day and it didn't work for him. How what's his name?
Vernon Jones.
Vernon Jones, how he's changing party. I mean, I call him the surfer. But how they've changed party, right? Like Lee Marsh in this county race. He's been a Republican. Now he ran as a Democrat, but look,
Right.
he lost the race though because people seeing that they're seeing that people are carrying the label. Which party is really doing things, we're going to join that party. And then when the other party want to doing something, we're going to join that party. People voting Republican. So, and I have another issue that I'm bringing up, and this is a labor program here, and this labor.
Hold up. Let me interrupt there.
Okay.
While you was on that point there about
can you move over a little bit more in the camera? Because we're just getting half of your face. We want to see your full face.
I got you. I'm reading my notes. But I got it from there. Along what you were talking about, those lines, right. 1,251,000 people did not vote in this last election.
Absolutely.
Okay, and along those lines that you were talking about, that's one of the concerns that we've got to deal with. And on to your next issue.
Right, absolutely. We definitely have to do that. Somebody's bell is ringing, and I think it's my phone. But so we're not taking calls, y'all. We're not taking calls. This is just Walt and Greg's and Rita time, okay? So, but what happens here is, let me cut this phone off because these people are gonna keep on calling. No, we're not taking calls. No. Okay, all right. Let me cut them off, Walt. They wanted to join in what you just said. I know they heard what you just said because that is a problem. Because that's another thing because we're registering people to vote. I keep saying, why are we spending all this money to register people to vote when people ain't going to vote? We need to spend that money on voter education. We need to be educating. An educated voter will go and vote. An educated voter, if they're not registered, they'll go and register to vote. We need to be spending our resources on education, voter education. We have spent for years money on voter registration, and we've registered people on election day. They even fixed it where you can go early vote, but on election day they don't go vote. They don't go vote. So we need to educate of the voters. Like I was sharing with someone the other day, and I told him, I said, listen, in my city, we got a city manager who's asking for $100,000 raise plus car allowance and other perks. We got some council people who are asking for a raise and putting it in the budget. But yet you say we got a $14 million deficit, right? A $14 million deficit, but you want to raise, but you want to go up on power bill, sanitation bills, and all these other bills to fund this budget. Now, this is the kicker here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go up on the millage rate to be able to fund that budget. And then that means that my mortgage and other people's mortgage is gonna go up because their taxes going up. See, people don't have the connection. That's what I'm talking about. I said, Rita, voter education. We got an educated voter will understand it because you put money in my pocket, I'm cool. You're taking it out, I got a problem.
And that's one of the things when Rita come after me, babe. When we met with Michael Thurman, that was one of the things he explained to us. How they get us on those taxes. They might cut it on one, but they're gonna turn around and go back on the other. The example he used, we had 9 people in the meeting. We got 9 sandwiches, and it was $90, and the tax was almost $10 because of what they charge you on the dollar bill, okay? And what he was saying, that if you cut that and limited those other upcoming taxes, then you'll be able to save. They run around and brag about they got billions of dollars of overabundance and stuff, but yet they keep billing us with these taxes and going up and up and up. It's all right, Rita. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
No, he ain't sorry, Rita. No, you know he ain't sorry. That why he ain't sorry.
As long as he got it in, that's all that matters. No, and here's what is so important. When we talk about electing people, you have to think in the mentality here that my vote, a lot of times what the problem is that a person doesn't know how to appreciate what they didn't fight for. And that's why if you look at the numbers of where the voter turnout is, you will see that most of those that turn out to vote are within a certain age category that originally fought for the right to vote, as opposed to those that were born into the right to vote. And so what we've got to do for those of us that fought for that right, I don't love it, but I share with people all the time. I got involved with the union as an employee of the Bell Company, but I was involved in politics way before that. And that's because my desire for the fact that there were those that were sent to Vietnam to war on the front lines and could not vote for the person that sent them to war because age was 21, but you could be drafted at 18. By the way, people need to know that this current president has reintroduced that part of the law that allows them to now automatically put you on a draft list. So please be aware, everyone out there, mothers, fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, be aware of the fact that at this time, whether you register at 18 or not, you are now on the draft list, which means that the more wars that we're in or participating in, you can now be drafted, whether or not you have registered for the draft or not. So here is what happened. Having to fight for the right to vote because of looking in the grave, viewing the bodies of those that could not vote, but were sent to Vietnam on the front line and didn't have any idea of the people that sent them there, what their mentality was. What we've got to do is educate, educate, and educate. And I love it when I hear the part, because I call myself at my union meeting, Democrat, Republican. I am union. Right. And so what I'm concerned about everything is about what the issues are, because people who think alike flock together. Those who think differently, they don't find the same type of mentality that you have. So you've got to think, what's important to you? It's important to me that we expand Medicaid in this state. if we don't elect an official that will expand Medicaid simply because when what people like to call Obamacare, by the way, it's not Obamacare, it's the Affordable Care Act.
Amen. We need to start
like
first.
Obamacare, so to discourage people who don't look like Obama from desiring to participate.
Come on, baby. Come on.
Those governors that were in place that said we will not accept any funding coming into the state from the Affordable Care Act while Barack Obama was president. Well, in the state of Georgia, we've closed 10 hospitals in rural areas. You better not have an accident down 75 going south where you need an ambulance or a doctor because there is no hospital there for them to take you. I know when two of my sons were in college in Peach County, I became ill while visiting them and had to be taken to the hospital. And when I was taken to the hospital, there was no doctor there, only nurses. And they had to send a doctor from another county. Since then, hospitals have closed. And so what we've got to think about is what's important to us. And when we give our vote to this person, we need to have interviewed them and found out what's important to them. What do they think about? How important it is to them that we have medical services available in rural areas throughout the state of Georgia. What does it look like without those services? What will it look like if I don't have a job to go to? What will it look like if my gas is not $4 plus a gallon, but rather back to $2.97 like it was? What are we looking at? And we have to think about what's important to us and how important it is that we get out to vote. We've got to let the community know that, as they said, this is the most important every election. Because when I hear people say, well, they say that about every election, that's because as time progresses, what's important to us, there are those that try to find a way to affect it to make sure it's not important to you. So every election grows in its importance. And we, as those, need to educate and make sure that those that don't realize how important it is to vote do as Walt said. I forgot how many million, but 1 million plus that did not turn out to vote, that had the opportunity to vote, because these were not only local elections, these were statewide elections. And as we look at those numbers, it's very important that we educate.
I'm with you on the education part. I'm gonna take you to the word now. Take to the word. The children of Israel.
Let's go to the word.
Let them go to the word, Walt. The children of Israel, God had promised them because of Abraham that they would inherit the land of Canaan. Right?
I'm gonna bring you out of there.
And they went all the way through. God and took him and took him. They complained the whole time. And when he got to the land of Canaan, they got there and they complained in the land. The food and stuff over there look good, but the giants over there, we can't take us and all. Y'all can't go in. Y'all could have went in at 40, but now you at 40-year wonder. And then he says this. Now, see, this is us. Those people have suffered and have bled and died for us to come and get in the promised land. We don't know the struggle. We don't know the thing that they went through to get us there. Right? We don't know. We do, because we old enough to have had a part of that. But these young generation, they don't know, because they're like the Bible said, there's a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. They do not know the struggles and what it took. And the story Walt just told, that I got to play that, Walt, because that story is what was going on then. I remember when AT&T and Southern Bell merged. I was working at 7 Executive Park. I remember when they merged, right? So I'm just saying is that they don't know the history. They just look and see all the fruit and all of this and all of that and all of that, but they don't know the struggle to have gotten there. I had one of my members, Cynthia, the one that do Straight Talk Women, do the voiceover for all the things that's coming up. She said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I said, now you're the new Fannie Lou Hamer.
But Greg, let me do this. They talking about, they down there at the Capitol now. You were saying that backed off of redistricting or whatever. We hadn't got the final report yet, but they might come back at 12 o'clock at night and change their mind. But look here, they down there now talking about Juneteenth. 170 years ago, Juneteenth was instituted to free the slaves. Okay. Now here we are in 2026, about to lose our voting right. Our health care is almost gone. And this healthcare guy, Jackson, that just won the governorship for the Republicans, guess what he work in? He's in healthcare.
He's in healthcare.
Think he's gonna bring Medicaid or American healthcare or anything else in here? No, because that's hurting his pocket. He's a healthcare provider. He gonna want to close more hospitals, so you have to go to him to get service. When we talk about that, and they talk about the veterans and stuff, Rita alluded to it a while ago. And before we came on air, I just saw where the women veterans in the United States of America had to cancel their program because of 45, 47 executive order doing away with diversity and recognizing the women and stuff like that. All of them that done lost their lives, they saying the hell with them. She talked about that, reinstituting the graft and bringing those things on, but yet they're sending our kids off to die. Those people down there celebrating the Juneteenth or whatever need to know the history, like you're saying. These folks are going off. All those politicians are businessmen. They make rules to make money
for themselves. For themselves. You're absolutely right, Walter. And I think that with this program and more programs like this, talking to you guys and bringing others on to kind of talk about how do we help educate?
What do we do?
How do we help educate? Now, when you talk about rural hospital, Rita, they closed West Georgia Baptist, which they used to call it, they changed to Wellstar. They closed down South Fulton Hospital. I mean, long before that, Rita, Walt would know this. I don't know if you were here at that time. We had a black hospital on Hunter Street. It's called Harris Hospital. We had McClellan Hospital, which was a black hospital on Chickamauga. They closed them hospitals down. Then they closed down. We had Holy Family. Then they changed it to Southwest Community. They closed it down. We don't have nothing on this side. That's one reason why I supported Andre, NTRI, that neighborhood revitalization plan in the TAD. I supported it because we need a hospital in the West End. We need a hospital. Yeah. Great is turning people down right now and saying that they don't have any more beds. They say we don't have any more beds. They sending people other places because they don't have no more beds. I'm sure the CAB Medical is getting the same thing because they don't have no more beds.
Yeah, exactly. And here, one of the problems we have is by not accepting the additional funds from Medicaid, it has affected those that are in the medical industry as well. It also affects, as you said, any more beds, no matter where you are. It affects, I am proud to say that I am a breast cancer survivor. Mm-hmm. And being a survivor, when I think about what I wouldn't have known had I not been able to have a mammogram, when you are in some of those areas, women do not have access to mammograms. They don't have access to health care. There are those that have been in labor and not made it to the hospital because there's no hospital in the area. And I agree, the same thing here in DeKalb. We need to make sure, especially that those that are in the medical service can provide. And I'm going to tell you something. I talked to a gentleman once way back, say during Obama's presidency. And this young man was down, in fact, in South Georgia. And he said, I don't want Obamacare. I don't need it because I'm on my parents' insurance. And he was in his late 20s. And I remember that as an employee of the Bell industry, when my children turned a certain age, I could no longer cover them myself through my insurance. But because of the Affordable Care Act, if they were in college, you could continue to keep them on your health care plan until a certain age. And so I said to him, well, how do you think your parents are able to keep you on your health care plan?
Union.
And right. So he turned around and he didn't understand. And he called his parent from there where I was. We were sitting in a restaurant. And you know what his mother told him? That she was able to cover him with health care because of the Affordable Care Act. He didn't understand that was what he was calling Obamacare. So I had him sit there and look it up on his phone and see what it was. Here he was, a young man, uneducated to what was serving him at the time. And so many times I have been in some of the rural areas that I have literally had residents tell me, I don't vote because I don't want the people that I work with to know how I vote, because those that work in the election office will tell them what type of ballot I pulled. And I know that because they did it before. That should not happen. We have got to
Rita,
make people
let me
realize.
start. Let me start. You're making my point about whether you have a ballot, a Democrat or Republican now, because you're voting for
Right,
the individual. You know, so it
right.
kills all of that. It kills all of that. I remember when I don't know, my first voting was Hubert Humphrey and Richard Nixon, right? Turned 18. That was the first time I
Right.
voted. And y'all call it elementary school,
Okay,
which is no
what
longer
was
there.
that? What what year was that?
I was 18 years old. So that would had to be
Okay.
in
See, I
69,
thought I
70
thought
when I
you
voted.
had that right to vote at
Voting
18.
was
I
nowhere in
thought
my
you had
category
that
then. It
see,
wasn't even in my ballpark then. I had other plans, dog.
but I'm saying is that but you didn't have a Democrat or Republican ticket. You just voted for the individual. So I'm saying is
right.
when they created that, they created see, I voted for Humphreys because I believed in what Humphreys, what he stood for. I thought, right, at 18 years old, because that's what they told me to do, vote for Humphreys, right? And that's what I voted for. But I'm just saying but it wasn't whether he was a Democrat or whether he was a Republican. It was just vote for a candidate. And I just think, I'd said to the union, and Reed, you might can remember what I said to them, and they got a little warm with me in the meeting. I was saying, we need to start looking at these judges. We need to start looking at the endorsing judges. I said, they the ones that we need to be dealing with. We talking about the politician stuff going to eventually end up in that courtroom. And then they were like,
Well,
oh, they finally got
I
it.
want to add something to that, Bishop Fan, and
Yeah,
that is I did the same thing. And what would tell you as the political director when he was president, I let them know how important it is that we endorse and look at the judges, how they rule and what they do, and that our votes are for those that understand and are in the right place to be the right judge.
And Penny
absolutely.
So,
Brown survived. Penny Brown survived. Penny Brown Reynolds, she survived.
Well, we gonna have to end this right here, guys, because we've been in here for a minute talking. But this like family talk right here. Y'all right here on straight. This is like family talk.
Greg, I got to
Yeah,
say this
go and
before.
say what you need to say, Walt.
Okay, okay, but we've got to come back together. We got
Right.
one hell of a fight ahead of us, and if we start now putting us together a coalition to get ready for November, we ain't depending on no individual. It's going to be all of us grouped together. We're going to get some phone numbers where people can call in, and first of all, we're going to start at home and make sure that our members registered to vote and that they need to ride to the poll. We'll take care of them. But we got one hell of a fight ahead of us. We've got to come together and put us a plan together, Greg.
Well, let me put it like this, Walt. I don't want to give out playing out on our program. They don't need to know what we're doing. They don't need to know what we're doing. Somebody gonna tell them
But we
anyway.
depending on you because of your media experience. We need you to help lead us to put a plan together, and hopefully we'll come together and we're gonna have to put it out public. We're gonna have to fight.
Right.
We're gonna have to fight.
Let me
This
tell you
guy
something.
won governorship for Georgia by 40,000 votes, and if he get in there, Medicare, Medicaid, everything is gone.
Well, let me just say this to you, Walt. There's an old adage that said, plan your work and work your plan. That's what they
Right.
did with Project 2025.
And
So
work
they
without
plan their
faith
work
is
and
no
their
good.
plan.
Work
And
without faith is no good, dog. Come on now.
it ain't no good. It ain't no good. But that's what they did with Project 2025. They made their plan and they
They're
worked their
working
plan.
that plan.
And they're working their plan. And that's what we have to do too. But we don't feel
Thank
no
you.
ways tired because God
Thank you.
ain't brought us this far to leave us.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for being on Straight Talk with me, Greg Fan. Reed, you want to close out with something?
well, yeah, I want to say he mentioned faith without works. If you take those very same words, faith without works is dead. Take the
Amen.
very same word, don't add another word. Dead is works without faith.
All right,
Amen.
ladies and gentlemen,
Rejoicing.
this ain't been nothing but straight talk with your truly great fan, the preacher man, Rita Scott, and Walter D. Andrews. Hey,
Amen.
hey, listen, let me. When I play this,
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922 at Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Pan, the Preacher Man.